Every Sunday, America does something strange. Cities slow down, living rooms fill up, and millions of people turn toward the same game. The NFL is no longer just a sports league. It is a weekly ritual, a television empire, and a language millions of Americans share. The Super Bowl can turn one night of football into a national event. But a century ago, professional football was barely organized at all. Teams vanished, players worked other jobs, and college football drew far more attention. The league that would dominate American Sundays once struggled simply to survive. So how did a rough, unstable game become one of the most powerful institutions in American culture? The answer begins before the NFL even had a name. In the early 1900s, American football was brutal enough to face calls for reform. Players wore little protection, and mass formations turned every snap into a violent collision. In 1905, a wave of deaths and serious injuries made the future of football uncertain. President Theodore Roosevelt pushed leading colleges to clean up the game. The rules changed, dangerous formations were restricted, and the forward pass became legal in 1906. That pass did more than open the field. It helped football move away from pure collisions and toward speed, space, and strategy. The sport was still dangerous, but now it had a better chance to survive. Professional football, however, remained a scattered business of local clubs and paid players. In 1892, Pudge Heffelfinger became the first known player paid to play a football game. But one paid player did not create a national league. For decades, professional teams came and went with little order. Owners needed rules, schedules, and a way to stop players from constantly jumping between teams. In 1920, they met inside a car showroom in Canton, Ohio, and formed the APFA. 2 years later, that awkward new league took the name the world would remember, the NFL. A new name did not make the NFL important. Early professional football still lived in the shadow of college football. Many teams played in industrial towns, on modest fields, before modest crowds. Franchises appeared and disappeared with alarming speed. Many players needed jobs away from football because playing alone did not always pay the bills. The league had no guarantee that today's opponent would still exist next season. What the NFL lacked was not toughness. It lacked stability. League president Joe Carr began imposing order with standings, territorial rights, membership rules, and tighter control over players. Stronger franchises slowly replaced many of the unstable ones. Teams in larger cities helped professional football reach bigger audiences. Stars like Red Grange proved that professional football could draw enormous crowds. But the league still faced a much larger problem. Being organized meant little if America was not watching. And the thing that would finally change that was not invented on a football field. It was television. Football turned out to fit the screen almost perfectly. Every play had a beginning, a burst of action, and a pause that gave viewers time to understand what happened. Cameras could bring fans closer to the action than many stadium seats ever could. By the 1950s, television networks were carrying more professional football into homes across the country. Then came December 28, 1958. The Baltimore Colts faced the New York Giants for the NFL championship at Yankee Stadium. The game went into sudden death overtime, the first NFL championship game ever to do so. The Colts won, but the larger victory belonged to professional football. A national television audience had watched the drama unfold together. The game became known as the greatest game ever played. In the years that followed, professional football's popularity surged across America. Television did not simply show the NFL to the country. It turned football into a shared national experience. And once millions of Americans were watching, a rival saw an opportunity. In 1960, the American Football League began play. The AFL had new owners, new teams, and no interest in staying small. It competed directly with the NFL for players, attention, and television money. The two leagues began bidding against each other for young stars. Salaries rose, loyalties shifted, and the cost of the war kept climbing. The AFL also built its own identity around new markets and a more aggressive style of football. The NFL could no longer simply wait for its rival to disappear. By 1966, both sides understood that endless competition could become painfully expensive. Secret talks began between leaders from the two leagues. On June 8, 1966, they announced that the AFL and NFL would merge. A common draft followed, and the champions of both leagues began meeting in a new title game. That game would soon become known as the Super Bowl. In 1970, the merger became complete and the modern conference structure took shape. The rival that was supposed to threaten the NFL had actually helped build a bigger version of it. But the league's next breakthrough came when it realized football itself was only part of the product. The NFL learned that a football game could become much bigger than the game itself. The Super Bowl slowly became a stage for television, advertising, music, and celebrity. People who barely followed the regular season still had a reason to watch. The commercials became events of their own. And the halftime show grew from traditional entertainment into a global spectacle. In 1993, Michael Jackson walked onto the Super Bowl stage and changed expectations forever. His performance showed how halftime could attract attention far beyond football fans. From that moment, the NFL could sell one night to almost everyone. Families gathered for the game. Advertisers paid enormous money for the audience. The biggest musicians wanted the stage. Broadcasters built hours of programming around a few hours of football. The Super Bowl began to feel less like a championship game and more like an American holiday. The NFL had stopped selling only touchdowns. It was selling a ritual. And rituals need characters. The NFL learned to turn great players into heroes people could follow for years. In the 1980s, Joe Montana and Jerry Rice helped make the San Francisco 49ers a symbol of precision and dominance. Their success gave fans familiar faces, recurring rivalries, and stories that continued from one season to the next. As television expanded, NFL stars became recognizable far beyond the cities where they played. Then in 2001, one of the league's biggest stories began with a backup almost nobody expected. Tom Brady had been the 199th pick in the 2000 NFL Draft. When Drew Bledsoe was injured, Brady stepped into the New England Patriots offense. That season ended with New England winning the Super Bowl. What followed was not one great year, but a dynasty that stretched across 2 decades. Brady became proof that the NFL could build a national story around one player and one team for years. Every season created new heroes, villains, underdogs, rivalries, and comebacks. Fans were no longer watching isolated football games. They were following characters through a story that started again every September. And the bigger those stories became, the bigger every failure became too. When the NFL became impossible to ignore, its problems became impossible to hide. In 2007, the Patriots were punished for illegally videotaping New York Jets' defensive signals from an unauthorized location. The scandal became known as Spygate. In 2012, the league issued major penalties after investigating a bounty program connected to the New Orleans Saints. That same year, a lockout of regular officials brought replacement referees onto NFL fields. Controversial calls suddenly turned officiating into national news. Then Deflategate pulled the Patriots and Tom Brady into another long argument over competitive integrity. Each controversy was different, but the pattern was the same. The bigger the NFL became, the higher the price of losing public trust. Player safety created an even deeper challenge. Research and legal battles forced football to confront the long-term consequences of repeated head impacts. The league responded with new rules, equipment research, medical protocols, and technology designed to reduce risk. But every safety change raised a difficult question about how much football could change and still feel like football. That tension now sits near the center of the league's future. And increasingly, the NFL is looking to data for the answer. Today, an NFL game produces far more than a score. Tracking systems record the location, speed, distance, and acceleration of players on every play. Tiny RFID tags inside shoulder pads help turn human movement into enormous streams of data. Next-gen stats transforms those movements into new ways of understanding what just happened. Machine learning models can analyze things like completion probability, rushing expectations, coverage, and routes. Teams can use that information to study performance and prepare for opponents. Broadcasters can transform the same data into graphics that explain the game to fans. And the league can use it to study something even more important: player safety. Working with Amazon Web Services, the NFL created a system called the Digital Athlete. It combines video and data with artificial intelligence to simulate millions of football scenarios and identify higher injury risks. All 32 NFL teams now have access to the technology. In 2025, the NFL also made Sony's Hawkeye system the primary method for measuring the line to gain. The chain crew that once defined a close first down is no longer the only tool used to measure it. Football is becoming a contest played by humans but interpreted through an expanding layer of machines. Which brings us back to the strange thing America does every Sunday. For more than a century, the NFL kept changing because standing still was never an option. It changed rules to survive violence. It built structure to survive chaos. It used television to escape obscurity. It merged with a rival instead of letting an expensive war weaken both leagues. It turned a championship game into a national spectacle. It turned players into characters and seasons into stories. Now it is using data and artificial intelligence to make football safer, faster, and more measurable. America did not simply fall in love with professional football by accident. The NFL spent a century learning how to make football almost impossible to ignore.